What's poppin', my people? Man, I hope you guys are having a nice Tuesday. The weather is beautiful out, man. I love this rain. Hope you guys are enjoying it too. It's nice and fall-like, man. I put a sweater on today. I wanted to rock the hoodie, but we'll put that on here a little later. But this live session, man, this is really to ease a lot of the tensions that I see going on, man. Everybody's kind of freaking out, right? And it's okay to be frustrated, but I would say to everybody in Broncos country, it's probably a little bit too early to start panicking or making any kind of crazy judgments, right? What's up, Victory Lap? We see a lot of things, man. I see some things on Twitter from people that are either trolling or they're out of their minds talking about, bench Bo Nix. Sean Payton's not the right coach for this team. All this crazy stuff. And just completely forgetting, like, how we got to this moment and how quickly everything has turned around. So yes, it's a great thing. It's a great position to be in, man. Like when you have expectations for a team, right? Because that sucked for so long. But let's not forget what got us here and all the positives, right? And all we saw from Bo and all the more positives that we've seen from Bo than we've seen negative, man. It's been pathetic to see some of the initial reactions. And so I wanted to make a live just to kind of ease the tensions a little bit and make everybody find some optimism. And there's a lot of reasons to be very optimistic still about the outlook of the 2025 season. Even though we've really given away 2 straight games, it is still early in the year and there's a lot of good things, man. And this team right now, they're teetering, right? Sean Payton says this a lot. Sean Payton talks a lot about, it's a fine line between a groove and a rut is usually what he says, right? And he used to say that last year. And then it started to make a lot of sense. And that's exactly where we're at. We are in that fine line, right? But we're more in a rut right now, but it's very, very close to being in a groove. And a couple things that I wanted to share before we get into some more specifics comparing kind of Bo Nix's career trajectory and look at some other quarterbacks in the NFL that have done the same. It's important to know that over the course of Sean Payton's career as a coach, dating back to 2006 when he was with the Saints, he has a 500 record in the month of September. Notoriously, Sean Payton starts seasons off slowly. Now, that could be for an array of different reasons, but it could also be really by design, right? Not saying that he's purposely trying to lose games in September, but I think he's trying to install and implement habits and play calls and certain things with the players that make his teams not perform as well early, but that typically yield to a quick turnaround because in the months of October, November, and December combined, he has over a 70% winning percentage. So there's a reason for that. He is always talking about building it out, right? I think we all got really caught up on his emphasis of like the importance to start fast and get a good start to the season. And I think he obviously meant that, but I feel like there is a method to his madness when it comes to why teams start to, they don't typically start quickly. And in his tenure here in Denver, they look very out of sync, very, very out of sync, man. In general. And it's because, listen, he runs a very complicated offense. A lot of the times you're like, man, simplify things. But he runs a complicated offense that he knows once it gets going, it's going to be very, very successful. And so that could be a major, major part of it. I think a lot of it is like this team's just trying to find their footing. They're thinking, a lot of these players are thinking so much. They're not just out there playing quite yet, but they'll get to that point. And it's happened every single year, man. I mean, in the first year he was here with Russell Wilson at quarterback, we were 1-5 or 2-5, something like that. I think we were a 1-5 ball club. And we flipped it around and we were talking about potentially eking into the playoffs. And then last year, we started off 0-2. Then we went to 2-3. And then we went on a nice little run. And we ultimately made the playoffs as a 10-win ball club. And you can look at a lot of the games and say, man, we let some of those slip. So we're in this transitionary period overall. But this is kind of a by design thing, in my opinion, when it comes to Sean Payton and him as a coach and him with his team. I mean, we kind of joked about it in week 1 that it was an extended preseason game. But I think that there's a lot of truth to that, right? I think the first month of the season is really very experimental for a lot of these ball clubs. You know, the Packers looked like they were ready to be Super Bowl. Everybody wanted to crown them Super Bowl favorites, and then they ended up losing to the Browns, right? Last year, the Eagles really struggled, man, early in the year, and there was talking about the tensions between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and all they did was turn it around and go to the Super Bowl. They started to really click, right? I also remember that, you know, the Ravens last year, their defense was among the worst in the NFL early in the year. They flipped it around. They started winning ball games. They had a very unfortunate loss in the playoffs, but I think we can all agree that they're Super Bowl contenders. The Bills didn't start the season off all that well either, and they kind of got into a nice little run, right, with some big wins later. So, oh, and also to add to that, the number one offense and the number one team in the NFL last year after 2 weeks, and even still the number one offense after 3 weeks, was the New Orleans Saints. And they ended up finishing as one of the worst teams in the NFL. So that being said, man, it's a very experimental type of the year, of the season. And it's them figuring things out. I think Sean Payton is trying to do as much of the complicated stuff early so that we're very good at those later, because he knows that this team is already good at the basics. Right? But it is frustrating. I mean, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's not an excuse. I mean, we still should have won those games. But it's just an optimistic approach that I feel like is going to be really important to think about moving forward. And I want to talk about the career trajectory of somebody specifically. Ravens or the Chiefs are going to be 1-3, man. It's going to be interesting. It's a crazy world, man, that we live in. It really is. The NFL is a wild season, and pull this up. And I think we just forget how, sorry, this thing always does this. You know, just how long the season is, but it's also short because it goes by quickly. But man, so much can change in just a matter of a little bit of time. Anyways, so this is what I wanted to see here, man. This is what I wanted to pull up. And I'll zoom in a little bit. This is the career trajectory of Josh Allen, right? Now, a lot of people come at me like, oh, you're comparing Bo Nix to Josh Allen, blah, blah, blah. Listen, there's a lot of comparisons. I mean, you guys can be in doubt as much as you want, but yes, there's a lot of similarities. And don't just take my word for it. Go look at what, I'm blanking on his name, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs said last year. As one of the post-game pressers. He said, I see a lot of Josh Allen in him, right? Does that mean he's going to be as good as Josh Allen? No. But there's a lot of similarities and a lot of traits. And the thing about Josh Allen when he came out is it was all about the talent. They came out and they were very different types of prospects coming out of college. But in the NFL, you see a lot of the comparisons. They're both bigger guys. They can run really well. They've got strong arms. They can make every single kind of throw, but they needed a lot of refinement, right? A lot of refinement. And Robert, my guy, for some reason I'm not very worried yet. Bo needs to slow down his feet a little bit. Yeah, absolutely, he does. But this is a part of what I'm talking about, man. Josh Allen in his first 2 seasons, he started 25 games. All right, so he didn't start the entire season of his rookie year, and he played 16 games in his second year. And if you look at it, a lot of the key metrics here that I want to point out is QBR, the first 2 years, right? You're going to talk about the quarterback rating, and then look at the sack percentage. These are all things that are telltale signs of a quarterback that is raw, that is not quite there yet, right? They're taking too many sacks. They're not very consistent, right? It also goes into the completion percentage, which is a big one, right? Not always going to be the most accurate. Josh Allen had a pretty significant problems with his mechanics at time, and he could tell he was going through a transitional phase sometime in his second year to where it really started to click. And then what ended up happening, man? After 25 games of starting, and mind you guys, Bo's only at 20 games, it flipped, and it flipped big time. I mean, look at the difference there. You're talking about going from 58% completion percentage to almost 70, 69.2, right? The quarterback rating took a humongous dip. The QBR took a huge like a huge increase as well. And then even more impressively, look at the sack difference. He went from 8% sack rate to 7.6 to right around where you want to see it at the league average of 4.35. So sometimes things just click. And what's really that's giving me a lot of optimism about Bo Nix and the trajectory of Bo is he's got continuity to start his career. He's got the same head coach, same play caller, same offensive line, and a legitimate commitment to him. Because the biggest reasons a lot of these quarterbacks fail is because of the lack of continuity and lack of things around them. Another guy I wanted to show you is my guy, Baker Mayfield. One of my favorite quarterbacks coming out of college, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. You talk about somebody that was given up on after taking Cleveland to the playoffs and really, really struggling at many times in his career, right? You can do the same thing with these numbers. You know, you see his quarterback rate. He was very up and down, very inconsistent in his first few years in Cleveland. You know, his completion percentage was kind of all over the map a little bit, right? Threw a lot of picks, man. 14 picks, 21 picks, 13 picks. You know, and this is somebody that even, you know, played even more, 13 games, 16, 16, and 14 in his time in Cleveland. And then he's just given up on. He goes to Carolina, plays a little bit in Carolina, right? Doesn't play all that good, but, you know, nonetheless. He also took a lot of sacks in his career. Nonetheless, gets a little bit of a, you know, good football rehabilitation down there in LA. And then Tampa says, you know what, man, we are going to commit to you. And since then, Baker Mayfield's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. 4,000 yards in 2023, 4,500 yards last year, 41 touchdowns in 2024, 16 interceptions. That ratio is ginormous. It's huge. The amount of sacks that he takes has gone down. He still takes a little bit more than you'd like to see him. But sometimes things just click, man. You know, listen, if it was like a clear lack of talent when it came to Bo Nix, if it ended up being a clear, he doesn't have the work ethic or he doesn't have the drive or the will or the want to, sure. But all of the things, man, that you look at when it comes to a franchise quarterback, he checks all the boxes, especially in the modern day. Everything that you hear about his work ethic is phenomenal, 10 out of 10. He works his ass off. Really, really smart kid. He's got all the arm talent. He can make every throw. And he's a talented guy in terms of his athleticism as well. And he's in a good situation with a good head coach and a franchise that believes in him and takes care of him. So, sorry. My bad. To respond to this text real quick. Where was I at? So he's got all those things going for him. So, you know, a couple of missed wide open throws that he's overthrowing a tiny bit is really not a big concern of mine. My biggest concern, but like I said, I'm not worried about it, is how quickly is it going to take for him to get his mechanics back right? Right? Because I made a comparison to, you know, like a golf analogy yesterday, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, is, you know, when you're golfing and you're consistently kind of slicing or you're consistently hitting the ball fat, you're going to overcompensate to where all of a sudden you're going to start hitting the ball and it's going to start hooking, or you're going to start hitting it thin, right? Because you're overcorrecting some of the mistakes that you're making. And I think that's exactly where Bo is, specifically with his footwork. His big issue last year was he was throwing off his back foot a lot. He would kind of, what's the word? Like he would kind of sway back in the pocket instead of stepping up, right? I know there's a word for it, but it's not coming to me right now. But he would always kind of veer away rather than step up. And another thing that he got a little bit better towards the end of last season, but it would be like one read. If the one read wasn't there, he'd kind of just look to take off running, right? Which is common for a young quarterback. Now there is a very concerted effort of go through your progressions before you look to run, which is why he's been running significantly less so far this year. And another thing is he's doing a good job stepping up in the pocket. The problem is he's overstepping now. And he's throwing off his front foot instead of his back foot. So it's kind of crazy how you can see things happening so opposite as they were last year. And I have no doubt he'll get this corrected. I really just feel confident of it because he's corrected everything that he was working on in his rookie season throughout the year. And so now it's going to be that next progression, getting through it. And again, defenses are going to give him significantly different looks because they have 17 games of film on him now. So he's got to be able to deal with that and adjust. And obviously, Sean Payton's opening up the playbook more. He's got different receivers and running backs that he's handing the ball off to and throwing to. So there's going to be a transitional period, man. There is. And I think he's got all the makeup and all the tools to not just get through this, but really ultimately thrive. And I really, guys, I have no doubt come November, December, we are very much, obviously health permitting, we are very much going to be talking about the Broncos and the playoffs. And it's just a matter of what the seeding is going to be. But we'll see. Definitely have to turn it around. You absolutely have to win this next home game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know what? Losing 2 games in a row, at the buzzer with a field goal kick, that'll do that to you. It'll put a little bit more pressure on these games. But I think we're up to the challenge, and I'm excited to see how we're going to respond at home on primetime versus the Bengals, and then how we're going to look the following week on a true test, a really, really big test on the road on an early start on a short week against the reigning Super Bowl champions. That'll be a good measuring stick. So let's see how these next 2 weeks go, man, and then we'll take it from there. But I don't want to see nobody tripping no more. Drifting. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Robert. He would drift in the pocket. That's exactly what it is. So that's my point. I think that there's got to be a lot of cleanup there with Bo. Other things, man, as you saw last year, this team was a pretty heavily penalized team early in the year. They started to clean those up. I will say I've been very surprised by that, though, mainly because of the players that have been committing these boneheaded penalties and the stupid nature of them, right? The leverage call, we can talk about that. I can make an entire video. You'll never be able to change my mind. That game was stolen from the referees, right? I don't want to be that guy, but unfortunately, when something like that happens, you have to be. But Hufanga with some dumb penalties, man. Adam Troutman just completely worthless with some dumb penalties. Nick Bonito lining up offsides. It's guys you don't expect. Maybe you'd expect R.J. Harvey to have a penalty, or Pat Bryant if he was on the field, or even Troy Franklin still being a young player. But it's not coming from the young players. It's coming from a lot of these vets, which should give you more optimism that it's going to get fixed, but it's definitely been frustrating. And another thing is, man, I think we're all slowly realizing how much the absence of Malcolm Roach might be affecting this defense, specifically in its consistency. Because if you notice, they're putting in Iyomo Awazurike a lot. Not to say that he's been playing bad, but Malcolm Roach is an elite run stopper, and he can provide you some pass rush juice. So he's a really good rotational guy to have with this defense. But more importantly, he's a leader, man. He's a vocal guy. He gets his teams fired up. And he really is kind of a heartbeat to this defense. So I can't wait to get him back after this week, hopefully. And we'll see where it goes. But, man, am I concerned? Yes. Am I panicking? Absolutely not. Not yet. It is way too early. And I hope you guys will all do the same. I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. You guys have been awesome, as always. Victory lap, Robert, in the chat. You guys have been dope. Comment below if you guys are watching this later. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. And y'all take it easy, man. Be kind to yourselves, and catch you on the flip side. Peace.